Hi, Virgo. Two people standing on opposite sides of something that neither of them has been willing to cross first. Not because the wanting is not there. The wanting is enormous, has been filling the space between them with a charge so palpable that everyone around them can feel it, while somehow neither of them has found the particular configuration of courage that would move one foot forward. This is your reading today. And I want to begin with the image rather than the explanation because the image is the thing and the explanation is only ever a approximation of it. Two people, enormous wanting, and a distance between them that has nothing to do with geography and everything to do with the specific, shared, mutually reinforcing fear of being the one who moves first. Take what belongs to you today. What resonates, let it stay. What does not, release it gently and without guilt. But for those of you who recognize something in those first words, who felt the specific, slightly uncomfortable recognition of someone seeing their own situation described from the outside, this reading is entirely yours. Let me speak about the stalemate, because that is what this is, and naming it accurately is the first step toward understanding what is about to break it. A stalemate is not the absence of wanting. It is not two people who do not care or who have not made up their minds or who are genuinely uncertain about what they feel. A stalemate is two people who want the same thing and are each waiting for the other to demonstrate it first, each hoping to receive the confirmation of the other's feeling before exposing the full size of their own, each protecting themselves from the specific vulnerability of moving towards something that might not move back, while not realizing that the person they are protecting themselves from is doing exactly the same thing for exactly the same reason. Soft sigh. The symmetry of it is almost beautiful. Almost, were it not for the fact that the symmetry is costing both of you something real. Every day that the stalemate holds, every day that neither of you crosses the distance, is a day the connection exists in the compressed, managed, not yet fully itself form, rather than the open, honest, finally allowed to be what it is form. And the connection in its compressed form is already extraordinary, which makes what it could be in its open form what it is clearly capable of becoming when the stalemate finally breaks something that neither of you has yet fully allowed yourself to imagine. Imagine it today. That is the first thing Spirit is asking. Not as strategy, not as the visualization technique of someone trying to manifest an outcome. Simply let yourself feel the full size of what exists between you and this person when you remove the management and the protection and the careful calibration of what you allow yourself to want. Let it be as large as it actually is. For the duration of this reading, without immediately reaching for the footnote. Now, let me speak about what is happening on their side, because the energy of this collective today carries both of you simultaneously, and what I feel from their direction is something that may genuinely surprise you. They think about making the first move constantly. not as a passing thought, as a recurring daily, sometimes multiple times a day arrival in their awareness, the specific, vivid, what would happen if imagining of crossing the distance, of saying the thing, of doing the thing, of letting what they carry become visible to you in a way that removes the protective ambiguity and places them fully in the exposed position of someone who has declared themselves. They imagine it and then they do not do it. And the gap between the imagining and the not doing is where everything lives right now. The full, complicated, increasingly unsustainable tension of someone who knows what they want and cannot yet find the bridge between the knowing and the acting. Hear them today because their voice is pressing forward and needs to reach you in the form that is closest to how it actually lives in them. I have rehearsed this so many times in the private hours, in the space between sleeping and waking, where the defenses are down and what I actually feel gets to be what it is without the management. I have rehearsed what I would say and how I would say it and what your face might do when I said it. And in the rehearsal, it always feels possible, clear and possible, and like the obvious next thing. And then the moment arrives, a real moment, not a rehearsed one, where the possibility of saying it is actually present and something in me recalibrates, reaches for the version of the interaction that is safer. That does not require the full exposure. That allows me to remain in the comfortable ambiguity of someone who has not yet declared themselves and therefore has not yet made themselves vulnerable to whatever response the declaration might receive. The comfortable ambiguity is becoming less comfortable. That is the change. That is what is different right now from what it was before. The protection is starting to cost more than it is providing. The safety of the stalemate is beginning to feel less like safety and more like a cage I built myself out of the very reasonable fear of rejection that is now keeping me from the thing I want most. Oh, feel that, because that is the quality of what is shifting on their side, not a dramatic overnight transformation, but the specific and significant shift of someone whose calculation is changing, whose assessment of the cost of the stalemate versus the cost of the vulnerability is arriving slowly and then suddenly at a different answer than it was arriving at before. The cage is becoming less acceptable than the risk. And when the cage becomes less acceptable than the risk, when the protection costs more than the exposure, would the behavior changes. Not immediately, but inevitably with the specific momentum of someone who has crossed the internal threshold that precedes every external action. Soft sigh. Now I want to speak about what is true on your side. And I am going to say it directly without the softening that makes things easier to hear but less useful to receive. You are doing the same thing, the same rehearsals, the same moments where the possibility is present and the recalibration happens and the safer version of the interaction is chosen. The same assessment of the cost of vulnerability versus the cost of protection an assessment that has been arriving until very recently at the same answer: stay safe. Do not be the one who moves first. Do not place yourself in the exposed position of someone who has shown their hand before the other person has shown theirs. You have been waiting for them. They have been waiting for you. And the wait, the mutual, symmetrical, neither of us is willing to go first wait, has produced exactly the stalemate that brought you to this reading today. But here is what Spirit is bringing through with an insistence: I cannot set aside the thing that changes everything about this situation when it is fully received. The stalemate is about to break, not because one of you finally develops enough courage to act unilaterally, but because something is shifting in the energy between you, in the field that exists in the space you share when you are together, in the quality of what passes between you, in the moments that are charged without explanation, that is making the stalemate increasingly difficult to maintain. As though the thing that has been growing between you has reached a size that the stalemate's container can no longer hold. As though what exists between you has grown too large for the careful management of two people who are each waiting for the other to go first. Something is going to give. The ignition point is approaching. And it may not arrive in the form of one person making the deliberate, planned, I have decided to do this now, first move that the stalemate's logic suggests it would require. It may arrive in a moment, an unguarded, unplanned, completely unrehearsed moment where the charge between you simply finds its expression, where something is said or done or felt that bypasses the protection entirely and lands in the open before either of you has had the chance to recalibrate into the safer version. Those moments exist. They are real. They arrive not from planning, but from the specific, accumulating, eventually unavoidable pressure of two people who feel too much for too long in too close a proximity to each other. And what they produce, the specific, breathtaking, finally happening quality of the connection finding its full expression in an unguarded moment, is unlike anything that the planned, rehearsed, deliberate first move would have produced, because it carries no performance, no strategy, only the raw, actual, this is what is real truth of two people who stopped managing at the same moment. Pay attention to the moments between you, not with the analytical, what does this mean, monitoring of someone trying to decode every interaction, with the open, present, fully alive attention of someone who is genuinely there, who is not managing the moment from a safe remove, but inhabiting it completely. Because the ignition will not arrive in the moments you are managing. It will arrive in the moments you are simply there, fully, without the protection, without the recalibration, in the moment that is too real to be managed and too present to be deflected. Now I want to speak about what happens after the ignition, because Spirit is bringing it through, and it would be incomplete not to address it. What ignites between two people who have been holding this much for this long does not burn briefly and extinguish. It does not have the quality of something that found its expression in a single charged moment and then returned to its previous state. What has been building here in the space of the stalemate, in the charge of every managed interaction, in the full weight of two people carrying something enormous toward each other without yet finding the bridge, has too much fuel to be a brief fire. It is going to burn with the specific, sustained, this is not going anywhere quality of something that was always meant to be more than a moment. That was always pointed toward something lasting rather than something fleeting. That has the specific gravity of a connection that was genuinely built, not stumbled into, not produced by convenience or proximity or the simple absence of anything better, but built. By the time invested in the wanting, by the cost of the stalemate, by the full weight of everything that accumulated in the space between two people who could not stop feeling what they felt despite every reasonable attempt to make it more manageable. Soft sigh. You are both ready, more ready than the protection has been allowing either of you to demonstrate, more ready than the stalemate has been making visible, ready in the specific way of two people who have been doing the internal work of the waiting, who have been clarified by the charge and the tension and the daily discipline of carrying something enormous without releasing it, and who are arriving simultaneously at the place where the readiness exceeds the fear. When that happens, when both people cross the internal threshold at approximately the same time, the external expression tends to follow with a speed that surprises everyone involved, including the people doing the expressing. Something is coming between you and this person in the space that has been so carefully, so mutually, so expensively managed. Something that the management was always going to be insufficient to contain indefinitely. Something that has been building with a patience and a persistence that matches, and I mean this, precisely the size of what you both feel. The ignition point is close. The fire that is coming will be proportionate to everything that was held before it. And neither of you, when it arrives, in whatever unguarded, unplanned, completely real moment it chooses, will be able to pretend it did not. Will want to pretend it did not, because what the ignition produces will be exactly what the stalemate was always keeping you from. And what the stalemate was keeping you from was never something to be afraid of. It was always something to want, something to reach for, something that was always going to be worth the exposure of finally, completely, without the protection going first. So go first, or let the moment take you there. Either way, the fire is coming, and it is going to be everything the waiting was building toward. If this reading found you today, if something here named the specific tension of a stalemate, you have been living inside and confirmed that what is between you is real enough to ignite. Stay close. Subscribe and come back, because the story of what happens when the fire finally arrives is one worth witnessing all the way through to its most luminous chapter. And the next reading will be there for every burning, beautiful moment of it.